You ever notice how betrayal doesn't knock? It just walks in, makes itself at home, and helps itself to your coffee. That's how it started for me. Not with some screaming match or lipstick on the collar. No, it was a jacket. A plain, olive green bomber, the kind of thing you'd toss over a bar stool. Problem was, it wasn't mine. And it was hanging in my closet. It was a Thursday. Nothing special about it. Grocery list on the fridge, dishes drying on the rack, her half-empty wine glass from the night before still sitting on the end table, lipstick imprint untouched. She was in the shower, singing off-key to a song I didn't recognize. Normally I'd smile at that. Not today. I wasn't snooping. Let's get that clear. I was looking for my black hoodie, the one she always stole to sleep in, but never returned. Figured I'd reclaim it before she accidentally shrank it again. So I slid open the closet door, and there it was. That jacket. Men's medium. Not my size. Not my style. Still had a faint smell to it. Cologne, maybe. Expensive. That's when the first crack opened in the dam. I stood there for a good minute, just holding it. Turned it over in my hands like it would confess something. And maybe it did, just not out loud. I laid it over the bed and waited. She walked in, towel wrapped tight, hair dripping, and froze like I'd caught her stealing from a church. I pointed. Whose jacket? There was a beat. A long one. And then she did something I didn't expect. She smiled. Oh, that's my brother's, she said, wrapping the towel tighter like the word brother was supposed to work like Febreze on a rotting corpse. I didn't say anything at first. Just looked at her. Let the silence stretch long enough for the lie to sweat. You don't have a brother, I said evenly. She blinked. The smile flickered. I mean half-brother. From my dad's side. You've never met him. Uh-huh. Now, here's the thing about marriage. It's a game of memory. You remember the little things. Her favorite candle scent, the way she takes her coffee, the story about how her dad cheated on her mom in '98, and that's why she's an only child. You don't just forget a brother. That's not a missing sock in the dryer. That's a plot twist. I wanted to push. Wanted to press until the cracks turned into shatters. But instead, I nodded slow, like a man watching the ground open beneath his feet, but pretending it's just a pothole. She brushed past me, still damp, still humming like nothing happened. I stood there alone with that jacket, suddenly colder than the room. Later that night, I went through the closet again. Not to find anything else. Just to be sure. The hoodie was still missing. But the jacket? Gone. Vanished like it had never been there. She must have moved it the moment I left the room. That's when I knew. Something was off. Maybe not who. Not yet. But there was someone else. The truth had teeth, and it was starting to bite. And the worst part? I couldn't even feel angry yet. Just hollow. Like a puzzle with one piece swapped out. Same shape. Wrong fit. I lay in bed next to her that night, watching her sleep like it was an act she'd rehearsed too well. She looked peaceful. But me? I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd just met the ghost of my marriage. The thing about lies? They echo. Not loud at first. More like the whisper of wind through cracked windows. But once you hear it, you can't unhear it. And after the jacket incident, the silence between us got louder. Thick enough to chew through. I started noticing things I'd probably missed for months. She used to hum while making coffee. Now, nothing. Just the soft clink of the spoon, like she was stirring guilt into the mug. She used to wear my hoodie around the house on weekends. Now it was her phone, always in her hand, always face down. It buzzed during dinner once. I glanced at it. Just a name. S. No emoji. No preview text. She flipped it over without even reading it. Kept chewing like nothing happened. I didn't ask. I just filed it away. The next morning, I left for work early. Took a different route. Something in my gut told me to turn the car around an hour later. I told my boss I had food poisoning. Which wasn't a lie, just not the kind he was thinking of. I parked down the street from our place. Waited. She wasn't supposed to be home. Said she had a yoga class. Said she'd be out for hours. But at 10:17 a.m., a black sedan pulled into our driveway. A man stepped out. Mid-30s. Sharp suit. No yoga mat. He didn't knock. Didn't hesitate. Just walked right in with a key. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. Just watched. 13 minutes later, the blinds in our bedroom shifted slightly. A silhouette passed by. Hers. I didn't need to see anything more. I started the car and drove. Aimlessly. Just anywhere that wasn't there. Ended up in a parking lot outside a hardware store. Sat in the driver's seat watching people buy paint and patio chairs like their lives made sense. like they weren't unraveling quietly under the weight of someone else's secrets. When I got home that night, the house smelled like citrus cleaner. She was baking cookies. Chocolate chip. My favorite. That's when I knew for sure. See, she only baked when she felt guilty. The last time she made cookies? The week she crashed my car and didn't tell me until the insurance call came in. I thought maybe that was a one-time thing. A stupid reflex. Turns out, it was her tell. I sat at the kitchen island. Watched her pull the tray out of the oven like we weren't living on opposite sides of the same lie. How was yoga? I asked. She didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. Oh, good. Brutal. My hamstrings are on fire. I nodded. Took a bite of the cookie. Still warm. Soft center. Like my trust. She asked how my day was, and I almost laughed. Not because anything was funny, but because the absurdity of pretending had finally hit full volume. I wanted to ask who he was. I wanted to ask if it was his jacket. If he knew he was walking through a house paid for by someone else's loyalty. But I didn't. Not yet. Because I needed more than suspicion. I needed certainty. That night, she fell asleep on the couch. TV still playing. Same rom-com she always watched when she was avoiding something real. I watched her chest rise and fall like nothing was wrong. Like she wasn't slipping away in slow motion. I grabbed her phone. It was locked, of course. But she'd used the same passcode for years, my birthday. It worked. The texts weren't there. Nothing recent. No flirty messages. No S from earlier. She'd been careful. Except for one thing. The Notes app. Tucked between grocery lists and outfit ideas was a draft called Tuesday Plan. I opened it. 9:15. He leaves for work. 9:30. S arrives. 10 o'clock, bedroom. 11 o'clock, shower. 11:30. Clean sheets, open windows, air out. I stared at the screen. Long enough for my vision to blur. It was so clinical. So efficient. Like infidelity had a syllabus. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. She stirred but didn't wake. I walked upstairs and stood in our bedroom doorway. Everything looked normal. The bed was made. Pillows fluffed. Candles on the nightstand. But it wasn't our bedroom anymore. Not really. It was a crime scene without the chalk outlines. And in that moment, standing there in the quiet, I realized something. She wasn't just slipping away. She had already left. I don't know what I expected to find when I came home that Friday. Maybe a quiet night. Maybe her pretending to care again, movie queued up, bottle of red open, that fake little smile she gave when she needed to reset the scoreboard. Instead, I walked in, dropped my keys, and there it was. Hanging over the back of the dining room chair like it owned the place. That same olive green bomber jacket. The one that belonged to her brother. The brother that didn't exist. It had been gone since the morning I asked about it. Disappeared like a magician's prop the moment I got suspicious. But now, it was just there. Like it wanted to be seen. I froze. Didn't call out her name. Didn't move. I just stared at it. My jaw clenched so hard it popped. That was the moment. Right there. Not when I saw them. Not even when I read her notes. This was the betrayal. Because she didn't bother hiding it anymore. She wanted me to know. She wanted me to feel it. I walked over, fingers brushing the fabric. Still warm. Still smelled like someone who wasn't me. That cologne again, sharp, citrusy, the kind that only arrogant men wear like armor. She walked in a moment later. Fresh from somewhere. Hair curled. Eyes lined. Lipstick still perfect. Oh, she said. A flicker of surprise, not guilt, not fear, just the mild inconvenience of being caught in the act again. Didn't think you'd be home this early. I live here, I said, picking up the jacket by its collar. Remember? She didn't answer. She just walked to the sink, turned on the water, and started rinsing a wine glass. Real casual. Like this was just another Thursday. Like the truth wasn't sitting in my hands. Your brother's jacket, I said. Nothing. She wiped the glass dry. Didn't turn around. You want to tell me his name? I asked. Still nothing. Just the soft scrape of a towel against glass. Or maybe tell me what kind of brother texts you. Can't wait for Tuesday? You were amazing last time. Bring the black set? That did it. She stopped. Her shoulders tensed just enough. And then she turned. Slowly. Like a villain in the third act of a Netflix drama who just realized the camera's been rolling the whole time. Okay, she said. Just that. No panic. No apology. Just okay. I dropped the jacket on the chair. You know, I said, walking toward her. I kept thinking maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was being paranoid. I didn't want to believe it, even after I had proof. She rolled her eyes. Logan, Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic, I said. I'm being awake. Finally, she crossed her arms, leaning against the counter. So what? Now you're gonna yell? Throw something? Make a scene? No, I said, shaking my head. You already did that. I'm just here for the credits. She squinted. What's that supposed to mean? It means the show's over, I said. And you were never the star, you were the twist ending. She laughed. Actually laughed. God, you love your metaphors. And you love lying, I said flatly. A beat passed. Then she said the thing I'll never forget. Not because it was cruel, but because it was honest. You stopped being interesting, Logan, she said, voice low. You used to have fire. You used to try. Somewhere along the line, you just turned into background noise. I didn't flinch. I didn't break. I just nodded once. And you replaced me with a man who leaves his jacket behind like a drunk teenager? She smirked. At least he makes me feel something. That hurt. Not because it was true, but because it meant she'd been chasing chaos while I was busy building a home. And here's the kicker. Just when I thought the twist was over, the front door creaked open. And there he was. The man behind the jacket. Mid-30s. Expensive hair. The kind of smug that can't be taught, only inherited. He looked at me, at her, then at the jacket. Oh, he said, casually slipping it on. Didn't mean to interrupt. I looked him up and down. Didn't say a word. He turned to her. You ready? She didn't even glance at me. Just grabbed her bag and walked over like this was normal. Like walking out on your husband with your side piece in front of you wasn't complete emotional arson. At the door, she looked back once. Not with regret, but with that same smirk she wore the night we first met. The one that said, you'll get over it. She said, don't wait up. And they were gone. Just like that. I stood in the hallway, the scent of his cologne still hanging in the air like the ghost of everything we used to be. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just picked up the wine glass she left in the sink, poured it out, and set it gently in the drying rack. Because now it was my house again. And the silence? This time, it was mine. The house didn't creak that night. Not a single sound. No pipes groaning. No footsteps padding down the hall. Not even the usual click of her charging her phone on the nightstand she never dusted. She was gone. And you'd think that would bring relief. Like finally pulling a splinter from your skin. But the truth? Sometimes the pain gets louder once you know it's real. I didn't sleep. Just walked the hallways like a ghost in his own house. Her perfume still hung in the air, vanilla with something sharp beneath it. Like sugar poured over rust. I didn't touch the bed. I couldn't. Instead, I sat on the couch until sunrise, a single lamp on, holding a photo frame that used to mean something. It was us in Chicago. Winter. Her cheeks red from the wind, my arm around her like I could keep her from the cold. I looked so sure of us. So convinced. I put the frame face down. The next morning, I made coffee for one. Set out a single mug. Black. No sugar. The way I actually liked it before she came along and convinced me that sweet meant refined. It tasted like honesty. I should have boxed her stuff right then and there. Should have cleared the drawers, bagged her shoes, tossed that pretentious eucalyptus candle she swore smelled like vacation. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I opened my laptop and made a list. Not of her crimes. Not of my heartbreak. Of everything I had put on hold for her. Trips I never took because she wasn't feeling spontaneous. Books I didn't buy because they just take up space. Friends I drifted from because she said they were immature. Hobbies I gave up. Clothes she didn't like. Food she didn't eat. I had shrunk. Not all at once, but slowly, methodically. Like a man rearranging furniture to suit a guest who never planned to stay. That's what she'd been, an emotional squatter with good eyebrows and exit strategies. And now that she was gone, it was time to start moving back in, to my own life. I grabbed 3 empty boxes and started in the bathroom. Her products filled 2 drawers, a shelf, and the entire top of the vanity. Serums, scrubs, oils for every part of her body except the heart. I packed them gently, which surprised me. Part of me wanted to chuck them in the trash, but something told me this wasn't about rage anymore. This was about reclaiming. Next stop, the closet. Now, I don't mean to sound like a cliché, but fellas, there is a strange kind of therapy in folding your ex's yoga pants and realizing she lied about going to class 3 times a week for nearly 6 months. They still had the tags. I found a box of love letters in the back of the closet. Not from me. From him. Different handwriting. Neat, arrogant. Even the stationery was smug. The one on top just said, "You deserve the world." Or at least a man who doesn't just hold your purse while you shop. I laughed, loud and ugly. She used to call me her steady rock. Turns out, she meant that literally. Something heavy, unmoving, easy to stand on. By mid-afternoon, her side of the closet was empty. I stood there, hands on hips, staring at the space where she used to keep her heels lined up like trophies. The room felt bigger, not just physically, spiritually. Then I found it, tucked behind an old suitcase she never let me touch. A small black notebook. Nothing fancy, just spiral-bound, with little purple flowers doodled on the edges. Inside, her handwriting, page after page. Not poems, not diary entries. Plans, weekend getaways, alibis, cover stories, code names. Dates lined up with eerie precision: Tuesday, Thursday, the occasional Sunday when I was at my mom's. There were lists of what she wore, what lies she told me, what lies she told him. She even rated them. Each encounter, like Yelp reviews for adultery. Rainy day, Logan was moody, so I told him I had cramps. Spent the night at S's place. 4.5 stars. Good wine. That playlist. It wasn't just betrayal. It was documentation. I stood there for a while, notebook in hand, and realized something that hit harder than any punch I'd ever taken. She didn't love me. Not anymore. But worse, she didn't respect me. Because you don't make lists like that unless you think the other person will never be smart enough to find them. I sat down on the edge of the bed, still holding the notebook. And that's when it clicked. She thought I was done, that I'd fold, crawl into some man cave, and play sad guitar chords until she blocked my number. But I wasn't broken. I was becoming. She wanted a man who made her feel something? Good. Because soon, she'd feel everything. Revenge doesn't start with fire. Not the good kind. Not the kind that lasts. It starts with stillness, with silence, with a cold cup of coffee in the morning as you reread the same notebook 3 times, not to cry over it, but to understand it. Because the moment I found that journal was the moment the grieving ended, and the planning began. See, most guys, they go full caveman, swing fists, scream in parking lots, post dramatic Facebook rants like a teenager who just got dumped before prom. Not me. I didn't want chaos. I wanted impact. And I wanted her to never see it coming. First, I made a list of everything she relied on me for. Car payments, the Wi-Fi she needed for work, the joint credit card I paid off every month because our finances are a team effort, her phone plan, 2 still on my account. That's where I started. I didn't cancel anything. Oh no. I transferred ownership. Let the bills roll to her name one by one like dominoes tipping in silence. The best part? I didn't even tell her. She'd find out when her Spotify stopped working, when her phone got throttled, when the internet guy showed up asking for a new signature. Death by inconvenience. But that was just the warm-up. Next came the storage unit. She didn't know I'd rented one. I'd started it months ago, back when I still believed she'd come around, and I thought I was the one who might need space. Never used it. Never even told her about it. But now, it was perfect. I packed every last box of her belongings, neatly labeled, bubble-wrapped, and stacked. A cold courtesy. Not a single item broken or tossed. But I left one thing out. The notebook. I slid that into the drawer of my nightstand and locked it. Not to use. Just to remember. Then I had the boxes delivered to the new address I found scrawled on a post-it in her purse, his place. S. Signature required. Let him sign for her baggage. Literally. The next part took patience. She had a work party coming up. Formal dress. Big crowd. She loved those things, any room where she could fake a smile and feel adored by people who didn't know her favorite hobby was deception. I waited until 2 days before. Then I sent a polite email. To the event organizer. From a burner account. Subject, in case you're unaware. No threats. No slander. Just screenshots from her own notebook. A few lines of her Tuesday plans. A couple photos of S and her at a brunch she told her coworkers she skipped to visit her sick aunt. I didn't sign the email. Didn't need to. Her coworkers were smart enough to connect the dots. She never went to that party. Never even mentioned it again. I imagined showing up and seeing polite, forced smiles was too much for even her ego to survive. But the masterpiece? That came last. The coldest revenge doesn't explode. It erodes. She loved control. Loved spinning her version of the story before anyone else could. That's why I waited. 2 weeks after she walked out, I posted a letter online. Not a rant. Not a tell-all. Just the truth. Written calmly. Clearly. like a man explaining how his house caught fire while he stood outside holding a bucket. To anyone wondering why Ashley and I are no longer together, don't worry, I'm not here to bash. I just want the truth known so I can stop answering the same questions. We were married for 4 years. She was unfaithful for at least one. She left on a Friday. I cleaned the house on Saturday. I forgave her by Sunday. Not for her sake, but for mine. This isn't a plea. It's a release. I wish her peace. I just won't be the one paying for it anymore. I never tagged her. But I didn't have to. By Monday, the letter had made its way through our friend circles, through her coworkers, even to a couple of mutuals she still liked to impress online. She texted me. Of course she did. Ashley, that was low. I stared at the message. Then typed back. Me, not as low as Tuesday. She didn't reply. She hasn't since. Here's the funny thing about poetic revenge. It doesn't fix you. It just clears the space. And once it's quiet, once the dust settles, you can start rebuilding. The couch is still mine. So is the coffee maker. So is my peace. And sometimes, when I walk past the hall closet, I pause. Not to check for coats that don't belong. Just to remind myself what not to miss. There's a moment after the storm clears, after the boxes are gone, the bills are hers, the truth is out, where you sit down and ask yourself the question that creeps in like a slow leak through a crack in the wall. Was it me? Not in the self-pitying, rain-soaked John Mayer song kind of way, but in that quiet, sober, 3 a.m. clarity when the house is still and you realize you've been arguing with a ghost. That's where I was. Sitting on the edge of the bed we used to share, scrolling through old photos like they were crime scene evidence. Not looking for her smile. Not even for him. Looking for me. Wondering where I started to disappear. And the truth? I found pieces of myself buried under her needs. Somewhere between, can you pick up my dry cleaning? And do we really have to see your parents again this weekend? I stopped asking for things. Stopped raising my voice. Stopped saying what I actually wanted. And I let her shrink me into a version of myself she could outgrow. That's on me. No denial. No excuses. I wore compromise like a badge of honor while she wore detachment like a designer coat. I kept thinking love was proven by how much I could endure. She thought love was about how much she could escape. We were never building the same house. I was laying bricks. She was eyeing the fire exits. The next few days, I did something she never saw coming. I apologized. Not to her. To myself. For staying too long in a war I didn't start. For lowering the volume on my needs until I couldn't even hear them anymore. For mistaking loyalty for self-erasure. For calling it patience when it was really fear. Fear of being alone. Fear of starting over. Fear that maybe I wasn't enough. But guess what? Being alone didn't kill me. Starting over didn't shatter me. And being enough? That was never her decision to make. I went to therapy. Yeah, the kind of thing she once called emotional CrossFit for sad people. Turns out, she was wrong about a lot of things. My therapist asked me in the first session, if she walked back through that door tomorrow, crying and apologizing, what would you say? I didn't even have to think about it. I'd say, you're late. Late to the truth. Late to the damage. Late to the man I was becoming without her. A week later, I got a voicemail from a mutual friend. Said she was spiraling a bit. Rumors flying. Her new guy already vanished. Turns out, men who invade a home rarely know how to build one. She's been telling people I went cold. That I ambushed her reputation. That I ruined her. It's funny. I didn't even need to clap back. She was unraveling on her own and doing a much more convincing job of it than I ever could. I could have sent a response. Could have aired out more screenshots, added footnotes to the journal she accidentally made famous. But I didn't. Because sometimes the best apology is the silence you leave when you've said everything that needed saying and walked away without a final insult. People keep asking if I'll ever forgive her. I already did. Not because she deserved it, but because I deserved to stop carrying her choices like they were mine. Forgiveness isn't a handshake or a reunion. It's a doorframe you walk through without looking back. And I walked through. Calm. Alone. Clean. One night, I wrote her a letter. Not to send. Just to bleed it out. You never broke me. You bent me. You confused me. You shook me. But you didn't break me. Because breaking means I couldn't rebuild. And I have. Piece by piece. Without you. And better than before. I folded it. Tucked it inside the notebook with all her secrets. Then I locked it away for good. Because the final chapter doesn't belong to her. It belongs to me. It was a Sunday morning. Clear sky. Coffee hot. No lingering sadness. Just peace. The kind that doesn't show up all at once but creeps in like dawn through the blinds. Then she knocked. Not a text. Not a call. A literal knock. Like some old Western standoff where she expected the saloon doors to swing open and the past to welcome her in for a drink. I opened the door. There she was. Ashley. Sunglasses. Designer purse. That same practiced calm she wore when she lied for sport. But now there were cracks. Her lipstick was smudged. Her voice soft, unsure. Can we talk? I didn't say yes. I just stepped aside. Not out of kindness. Out of curiosity. She sat at the kitchen island. Same place she used to scroll through Instagram while I made dinner. This time, she had nothing to scroll. Just shaking hands and a voice trying to sound brave. It didn't work out, she said. I nodded once. I thought he was what I needed, she added. Silence. I made a mistake. Logan. I took a sip of coffee. She was waiting for something, anything. An opening. A flicker of regret. Maybe even a hint that I still missed her. But I didn't. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I was just done. That's not why you're here, I said. She blinked. What? You're not here to apologize. You're here because you ran out of escape routes. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The silence did all the talking. You made your point, she finally said. The post. The boxes. The silence. I get it. No, I replied. You really don't. She tried to spin it. Said she felt lost. That she wasn't trying to hurt me. That she just wanted to feel alive again. So she lit me on fire. That part she left out. I let her talk. Not because I cared, but because I wanted to hear the lies she told herself. Then she mentioned him. He left, she said. Didn't want the baggage. Of course he didn't. That kind of man never does. Turns out, being the villain in your own story has a short shelf life. She wasn't the siren anymore. She was the storm aftermath. And he didn't want to be her cleanup crew. She looked up at me with eyes that used to move mountains in my chest. No? They barely stirred the air. Do you ever think about us? She asked. No, I said. I think about who I had to become because of us. She lowered her gaze. That's when she saw the picture on the wall. A new one. Me. Smiling. Next to people she'd never met. Places she never went. A life she didn't get to witness being built from the ashes she left behind. You look happy, she whispered. I am. She stood up slowly. Took one last look around. Everything was different. The throw pillows. The art. Even the scent of the place. She didn't recognize it anymore. Because it wasn't hers. She tried one last time. I don't expect you to take me back. I needed to say it. I'm sorry. I nodded. I hope you find peace, Ashley. But it's not here. The words weren't cruel. They were a release. For both of us. She lingered in the doorway. Waiting, maybe, for a crack in my armor. Some old version of me that would beg her to stay. But he was gone. Buried under Tuesday plans and olive green jackets and smirks that used to silence my instincts. I never thought you'd be the one to walk away, she said. I shrugged. I didn't walk away. I watched you leave. I just didn't chase this time. She stepped outside. I closed the door behind her. No slamming. Just finality. Months passed. Life got quiet again, but the good kind. Peaceful. I didn't erase her memory. That's not how it works. You don't outrun ghosts. You outgrow them. I went back to the old bookstore I used to love. Reconnected with people I'd faded from while playing Husband of the Year to someone who didn't read the script. I took a solo trip. Sat on a mountain at sunrise and didn't think about her once. Eventually, someone new entered my life. Someone who asked questions like, what makes you feel alive? And actually listened to the answers. But that's not the victory. The victory is me. Waking up in a bed I made. Drinking coffee from a mug I chose. Listening to the kind of music she used to roll her eyes at loudly. And smiling. Because I stayed. When she left. When she lied. When everything burned, I stayed. And I built again. Not to prove a point. Not to win her back. But because the man she walked out on was worth rebuilding.